What an amazing audience. Thanks for coming, listening to my talk right before lunch. It's great to be here with you all. My name is Anne, and I'm a designer. I work at IDEO, which is a global design and innovation consultancy, and we help clients to innovate and grow. And we do that by looking at the intersections of what do people need, what is desirable to them, what is technically feasible and economically viable. We work with clients in various industries on all sorts of challenges that have become more and more complex over the last years. We've actually just recently built an entire school system from scratch in Peru, building the spaces, the curriculum, the technology, defining the role of the teachers to ultimately help grow and enable the middle class in Peru. This picture here is from our office in San Francisco, where I've had the pleasure to work for a couple of years, and then decided to move back to Europe to help companies build digital capabilities and new ventures. And yes, I think this place is magic because of the people we work with, our culture, and ultimately our purpose, which is about positive impact in people's lives. A few quick numbers. We have been around for over 25 years. We're 650 people, roughly, in 10 locations. And yes, we designed the Apple Mouse. But I'm not going to talk about a specific product today or specific features. I'd rather pick the topic that I think is much more profound when it comes about our role as designers, about what we design, how we design things, and why we design things. I would like to talk about trust today. A simple, basic definition I found for myself is that trust is a firm belief in something or someone. It's about our values, our expectations, our dreams and hopes, and a lot of emotions. Another quote I found is this one: "Love all, trust a few, do wrong to none." I think this quote actually summarizes really well what's happening currently with the rise of dating apps. I'm pretty sure you would agree. We've never had so much access to strangers that we can all love but not trust as much. So why does trust actually matter? Well, to me as a designer, I'm genuinely curious about people. I want to understand what drives them. What are their motivations that will make them behave in different ways? And what is actually really important to them when I design a new product? I think it matters to all of us as human beings because there's no relationship without trust. That starts very early, when we're very little, with our caregivers. It continues when we go to school, when we start working, or when we engage with our clients. It's all about building relationships and building trust. And I think it should matter to organizations you work for, because you're all getting bigger, you're growing faster, you become more and more complex. And yet, you also connect even with more consumers in more markets. And you always want to keep them engaged. So how do you not only enable new relationships, but also how do you maintain relationships? Also, if it's not just relationships to you, but if you as platform makers and builders enable relationships between different parties. And how do you actually design new products and services and businesses that people need, love, and trust? So how do you design for trust? And how is technology enabling trust today, or even not? The one technology that inspired me personally in the last couple of weeks and months is the blockchain. The blockchain is a digital public ledger that can't be altered by anyone, just added onto, which makes it ideal for recording, transferring information without no single user controlling it, no authority that can actually prevent anyone to access it, but also its openness is ultimately guaranteeing some security and making the data safe. Very simple, basic definition here is a database we all agree on, and that has fundamental impact on how we define our relationships and how we design for these new relationships. The place and time where we got to explore the potential of this technology is the Bits and Blocks Lab. It's a thematic incubation lab that my colleagues in Boston launched a couple weeks ago over the summer with the mission to develop new ventures for this emerging technology. We've been doing this with a group of trusted partners, which we call the consortium. You see their logos there. And we found 25 really bright, talented students to go on this journey for us that some of them called life-changing. And yes, I think we can all agree that the blockchain can be looked at as a threat, because everyone in the trust business need to reconsider their value and their role. Why are they around? Currently, they are centralizing certain transactions that are now completely being questioned. By the way, I don't know if you have seen it, but this is the cover of The Economist coming out yesterday with the blockchain on the cover saying it's the big trust machine. To me, again, it's about finding new opportunities and thinking optimistically about how can we now use this technology to generate new value. How can now I finally, as a designer, think about trust and transparency in different ways, not just thinking about the intermediate layers. And there's huge opportunities in different industries like the real estate, finance, or even managing reputation. So for me, the blockchain is less interesting as a technology per se, but how through its application it's informing and inspiring the way we design any kind of products today and tomorrow. I'm going to share 4 principles that I hope you can take with you to think about how do you actually design trust when you work on the products you deal with every day. The 4 themes I'm going to explore is identity, rules of engagement, transparency, and participation. Let's jump back into Boston. The team set out to do some field work and do some research talking to people. And what better way is there to understand identity by having it proven by the Massachusetts government and to basically get your ID certified. The team grabbed all the necessary paperwork, some pay stubs, mail, etc., to then go through this very tedious process, waiting for a long time, not knowing what was happening, and basically being rejected because 2 mail addresses wouldn't correspond. So how is that even possible that today trust is stuck? There's too many intermediaries that don't know me as a person. They have some information by me, but they don't manage to connect this information in a meaningful way. But we know that you can only have a relationship to someone you try to understand who she is, which some of the authorities don't have the means to do right now. So today, really, identity is a technical concept. It's not perceived from a people point of view, through their eyes, through their context in day-to-day life. It's a moving target. It's been defined by different channels, by different authorities, by different entities, rather than what matters to me. What if, for instance, in the application of a health situation, I could grant access, verified access, in an emergency situation to my health record, where finally I can grab data out of the silo from my lab, my hospital, my doctor, to show under which health conditions I am, what allergies I have, what treatments I received, so that I get better, proper treatment when I need it. What if we could get the data of our administrated lives out of the silos? And we're all designing these silos, but how can we actually overcome them and think of them more in terms of holistic user experiences? I think the way to get there is really thinking about day-to-day understanding who is the person I'm designing for and what does this person need. And that goes way beyond about empathy, but understanding how's this person, how's its identity currently reflected in different channels, and how can we get it out so that it's much more tailored about how I perceive and interact with the world. Here's another story. Let's assume this is Linda. She's a stay-at-home mom, and she decides to improve her home. So she's looking for a contractor to help her do that, calling up a bunch of friends, making a short list of recommendations, looking those up on Craigslist, calling them up, meeting a few, getting a quote, to then make a decision that she's somehow certain of. I'm pretty sure we've all went through that process. And here's the other side. That's the contractor. Let's call him Thomas. Well, he's not even sure if it's actually a trustworthy client he should engage with. Will he get paid in time? Will he get to work the best work under the right conditions? What could happen to him? Who has worked with Linda before? He's looking for a way, let's call it a smart contract, that could help him actually manage that interaction in a much more predictable and reliable way. So trust is really a prerequisite that we currently outsource from our friends and peers, being it asking about a life insurance, about a contractor. And that's really because unless people know what something is and that there is already trust, they won't interact with it. You can think about any delightful experience, a swipe left and right, but you need to build trust first so that people keep engaged and use the system. And reputation is such a concept, obviously. You can build it through multiple layer levels, and you clearly know when you trust a recommendation or not. Today this is happening through some stars, but with a blockchain there might be actual data backing up those reputations, so you can feel good about them. And it's also looking at different sides of the medal, not just the one receiving the recommendation, but also the one giving it. Here's a different potential use case coming from the music industry, where currently there's a lot of change happening, changing the role of music labels. In this case, the team came up with this idea of like, what if I'm, as a music fan, can invest through decentralized crowdfunding into an artist and have a much deeper relationship once the album gets generated that I invested in. So here I can help proactively build reputation and have a stronger connection with the artist directly. So what if we could design an actual human reputation system, which we, I think, called all word of mouth? What if this would be possible at scale? With all these examples, I get to my second principle that I think is a different way of looking at what we need to design beyond features. It's the rules of engagement. It's the mutual agreements that we help shape between different parties once the current entities are falling away that have been controlling the agreements. What if we can help actually people create predictability and reliability amongst each other so that they know what they're getting into? So here's something that you may have been going through this. It's called the first time home buyer experience. Highly emotional. In the US, very complex. You see a house, you want to buy it, you put an offer out there, and then you really don't know what's happening. You have no idea who to trust. There's so many parties involved. There's an agent, there's a lawyer, there's an inspector. What's the process? What's the timing? What do I need to do? What am I getting into, paying such a big amount of money for a house that I don't even know what value it is? So today, really, trust is hindered because it's based on incomplete and inaccurate information that I can't really validate. Though the answer may not be sharing just everything with everyone. Instead, I think the real value added is that if you think about in the future that every house can have its own verifiable identity, can collect and store tremendous amounts of information about the house itself, can I start having a relationship with a house way before I buy it? So for instance, can I look back at the history of the house? With a blockchain I could. I could look up the repairs given to the house, the tips and hints by former owners. I can see how well the house is maintained, who the neighbors are and have been, what went into in terms of materials, etc., etc. And I can use this history to actually estimate how much I would spend monthly on this house to maintain it. If by building up all this confidence through data, I can then set up my offer, I can send it right away to banks, agents, and the existing owners, and I do have the control about what I share. So what if making a purchase can become so much easier because of the blockchain-based identity, where you have a proven financial history to then instantly demonstrate your financial health? And what if a house with a digital address on the blockchain helps us invest much better, not only financially, but trust is a lot about emotional reactions. Which gets me through the third principle. It's not just about transparency in all of that data. It's about managing and organizing and presenting the data back to users that they can act upon it, that it makes sense for what they need to decide upon, that it's organized in a way that is meaningful for them and in context, showing why it matters and how it influences me. And now I know we're already thinking about lunch. Maybe you also had these questions like me this morning. What is actually in my breakfast porridge? What went into that? The ingredients, who picked up the fruit, what are actually the additives, how was it packaged and processed and delivered? And really, if you think about it, taking a bite out of a taco involves a certain amount of trust, which we kind of all accept and take for granted. Well, blockchains offer a way to introduce transparency in the supply chain that I think is highly, highly valuable in other contexts as well. Because you could literally stand in front of a cake in the grocery store and thinking about, okay, I want to know what went into this cake, where were the strawberries grown, who was the farmer, what pesticides or not did he use it, when did they get picked, how sweet have they been proven by others. So you can literally pin it down to the farmer that has grown the ingredients you are eating. And by doing that, I'm pretty sure you would agree that you have a completely different relationship to the producer and the manufacturer of things that you're consuming. You could even agree on naming a price that you'd like to pay for strawberries, and once you submit it, you create a smart contract with the farm to deliver the strawberries straight to your house anytime when you wanted it. Think subscription models, etc. So again, a completely new type of engaging and a way of organizing a trusted relationship. So what if with smart contracts built on the blockchain, we create new options for buying goods that include the naming of your own price, what does it actually value, what does it mean for you, how much do you want to pay for it, and actually also automatic recurring orders, which then farmers can plan on. But also, if you think about inexpensive and open payment, you could literally become a farmer or food producer yourself. You could sell your own food, putting it on the shelf in the grocery store. To me, this shows that trust is also reinforced by asking for commitment. We sometimes think the easy way in is the most important thing, but that also means the easy way out. I think sometimes commitment is something much more long-term, where once people have a relationship where they care about, they actually want to invest in. Think about your private lives. Think about the gifts you make and the people you care about. That's why I think designing for participation is really, really critical. Turn consumers into active contributors. Think about their role as not someone who just wants to be served and push things to, but engage them in the experience. Make them to curators and influencers. Help them produce value for others as well, as it's really, really rewarding to them. Stuart Butterfield was talking this morning about not having a sales unit in his company, because his early adopters of Slack are the ones that bottom up help initiate the usage of Slack. And I think that's a great example where users really want to participate in launching products and using them rather than waiting the IT department to suggest a tool for them to use. There's a lot more to explore in this domain, and we have a lot of content and really inspiring stories coming out of the Bits and Blocks lab that I encourage you to check out from different industries like the sports industry, media, etc. You can find them here documented. Some of the concepts are being now tested to pilot and launch with our consortium. The summary of the principles I'm going to give you is really, again, about understanding who needs what, who's the who and what is the what, but also thinking about not just the solution, but the agreements you enable with these solutions, the implied expectations, the shared values you suggest, and the ethics you design. And the third one is about organizing transparency, not just more, but just the bits that I need to understand what matters to me, how I can act upon certain data, and where it's coming from. And then last but not least, design for participation. Include the user not only in the process of the design, but make them an active contributor from then on, because all our designs are actually changing over time through their usage. So design for the change and evolution rather than the perfect pixel beauty outcome. With that, I would like to end with a quote by one of my personal heroes, John Maeda, who said, "Trust in others is built upon the doubts we have to get erased one at a time, with evidence of contrary action one at a time." Thank you very much.